Hello everyone, welcome to Mind Podcast Buddhism, the best channel for sharing knowledge about Buddhism. Today we will talk about the topic, seeking and living happily according to Buddhism. Join us as we explore the wisdom of Buddhist teachings and discover how they can guide us towards a truly fulfilling and joyful life. Chapter 1, Seeking Happiness. Thinking about the poor. The Bodhi Prince Sutta, the 85th discourse in the middle-length discourses, introduces perspectives and methods for seeking happiness. Through this discourse, two prominent views on the nature of happiness emerge. One represents Brahmanism, while the other reflects the spiritual principles of Buddhism. According to Brahmanism, one must undergo a process of asceticism to reach the ultimate peak of true happiness. In contrast, the Buddha teaches the transformation of the mind to diminish the strength of pain, afflictions, and karmic hindrances, allowing true happiness to be achieved. The discourse begins with the story of Prince Bodhi, whose name means enlightenment. Prince Bodhi, the crown prince of a flourishing kingdom, is a devout Buddhist. Despite his devoutness, the elements of Brahmanical customs and beliefs still deeply imprint his consciousness. Upon completing a magnificent palace named Kokonada, he prepares for the inauguration ceremony. He invites the Blessed One and the Sangha to consecrate the ground, believing that the merit, happiness, peace, and prosperity will endure in the palace. He orders his servants to invite the Buddha and the Sangha to witness the offering ceremony. The Buddha silently accepts the invitation. 3 times the invitation is extended, and 3 times it is silently accepted. Before the offering ceremony, Prince Bodhi meticulously prepares everything. He orders the finest white fabrics to be laid from the staircase to the palace threshold. The interior is also decorated predominantly in white. That morning, after the exquisite dishes were prepared, he sent his servants to invite the Buddha. The Blessed One, donning his robe and holding his bowl, leisurely walks into the city and stops at Prince Bodhi's palace. To show his respect, Prince Bodhi waits outside the door from early morning. Although he knows the Buddha will only arrive at the mealtime, his respect compels him to wait without feeling tired or uncomfortable. When the Buddha arrives, Prince Bodhi and his family prostrate and greet him, personally leading the Buddha and the Sangha on a tour. After exploring the garden and reaching the steps, the Buddha stops and stands for a while, not proceeding further. Prince Bodhi then says to the Buddha, "Venerable Sir, our family knows you are busy with many dharma duties, but out of compassion for us, you have come here. Please walk on these white cloths so our family can receive blessings, happiness, and long-lasting peace." Despite being invited 3 times, the Buddha remains silent. In this context, the Buddha's silence differs from the silence of accepting the invitation. Generally, in the cultural context of Buddhism, silence signifies consent. When addressed, if one has no differing opinion, silence expresses agreement. All decisions in the Sangha before reaching a resolution or a dharma duty announcement are decided by unanimous silent consent. However, in this case, the Buddha's silence has a different meaning. He looks affectionately at his attendant Ananda, who has been close to the Buddha for nearly 25 years and understands his intentions well. Ananda tells Prince Bodhi, "Roll up this cloth. Do not waste it, because the Blessed One is thinking about the countless poor people who lack food and clothing." Following Ananda's advice, Prince Bodhi orders the servants to roll up the cloths and remove all the extravagant decorations deemed unnecessary by the Buddha for the offering ceremony. Only then does the Buddha step on the stairs, enter the house, and sit at the prepared seat. Performing merit with a generous heart. The story opens with a view on merit. Not only Buddhists but followers of Brahmanism and other Indian religions of the time held similar views and behaviors, believing that inviting spiritual figures would bring happiness and peace. To express utmost respect, Prince Bodhi and his family waited from morning until noon for the Buddha. Waiting long hours under the scorching sun, post-rainy season, drenched in sweat, reflects their immense respect. He meticulously prepared, thinking that such offerings would bring merit to his family. In Indian customs, white is used for rituals, especially for seeking offspring. Decorating in white was believed to fulfill desires such as having a son to inherit the throne or continue the family lineage. Prince Bodhi followed these customs meticulously. Ananda's statement, because the Blessed One thinks of the poor, is significant. To gain merit, it is essential to serve the community and others. As the Buddha's principle, serving sentient beings, his offering to the Buddhas suggests. If the Buddha had desired luxury, he would not have become a spiritual practitioner but a wealthy and powerful king. Monastics also renounced their worldly possessions and status to live simply and receive offerings from lay followers. The Buddha suggests that Prince Bodhi should consider creating merit by helping the less fortunate in such grand inaugurations. Monastics do not need luxurious offerings. Offering the Buddha's teaching on merit. The Buddha emphasizes that lavish offerings are not necessary to create merit. Lay people and followers often prepare elaborate offerings, including the finest foods available in the kingdom. However, monastics live simply. Extravagant offerings may lead to indulgence, contrary to their practice. The Buddha teaches that monastics should eat without emphasizing taste or enjoyment, as attachment through the tongue can diminish mindfulness and awareness. Simple meals maintain health for effective practice, reciprocating lay followers' devotion. Elaborate meals, of which only a small portion is consumed, lead to wastage. In ancient India, eating habits were cultural and culinary traditions. The Buddha and the Sangha ate similarly to others, using the right hand for eating and the left for personal hygiene. The bowl held just enough to sustain health for a day. During meals, practitioners should not select the best portions first, leading to sifting and mixing. Instead, they should eat in order, consuming what is on top. They should not criticize the taste, avoiding attachment to food. Lay people offering to monastics should remember the Buddha's teachings. Avoid lavish offerings, as most will be wasted. Simple offerings like vegetables, tofu, or mushrooms are nutritious and inexpensive. Merit is linked to making offerings, rooted in the cause-effect process. Generosity and respect are the causes, and merit is the effect. This process is natural, but what we do must be meaningful and valuable. Without mindfulness, even large offerings may yield little result. Buddhist laypeople should be practical when making offerings. Some offer items like toothbrushes, toothpaste, notebooks, and pens during the 3-month rainy season retreat. If everyone offers such items, they may last 10 years. Offer what is needed, not surplus or duplicates, for the offerings to serve their purpose. Following this discourse's spirit, offering simple meals can save significant money. Instead of spending millions on premium foods, simple meals cost only a fraction. At Gyeko Temple, where around 30 members reside, daily groceries cost only 150 yen, excluding rice and spices. The average meal costs only 5,000 BND. Monastics maintain health with a modest diet. Consuming too many chemically processed foods increases health risks. Offering such foods may not create merit. Understanding nutrition helps in offering foods that support practice and health. Offering for merit is a gateway to happiness, undeniable but effective only when done correctly. Many Buddhists respect monastics by offering them the best delicacies while neglecting their parents at home. This is a mistake. The Buddha's message through Ananda's words suggests that significant merit and happiness come from meaningful actions like helping the poor during grand events. Releasing animals, meaningful merit. Some Buddhists release birds or fish, hoping for merit, longevity, peace, and prosperity. This action is valuable but should be done naturally. For instance, when encountering caged birds or fish, out of compassion, release them back to nature. Placing orders for animals to be released for personal merit does not hold the same value. Ordering animals encourages trapping, which is unethical. Releasing animals should be spontaneous, not planned. Some Buddhists keep birds in tiny cages, waiting until after the midday chanting, believing that chanting increases merit. However, by then, many birds may have died. Understanding the spirit of releasing animals, it should be done immediately. No need to invite monks for chanting during release ceremonies. Simply open your heart with great compassion, wishing for the animal's happiness and freedom. This sincere intention increases merit, regardless of formal rituals. The Buddha emphasizes thinking of the poor. In 1994, during a visit to India, releasing animals became popular among Vietnamese, Chinese, and Taiwanese pilgrims, hoping for greater merit. Consequently, impoverished Indians who loved animals started trapping them for the pilgrims. This practice is contrary to Buddhist principles. Meaningful help. During the annual floods in central Vietnam, livestock perish, rice sprouts, and there is no food. Diseases spread as an aftermath. Relief teams bring bulky supplies like noodles, incurring high transportation costs. Instead, money envelopes are light, cost-effective, and can help more families. Before donating, convey the social value to alleviate their suffering and support recovery. In previous years, during disasters in India, like the earthquake causing mass casualties and destruction, an Australian Buddhist delegation sought our guidance. We suggested providing temporary shelters, large water containers, and cooking utensils, along with financial aid. Understanding the nature of disasters allows us to respond effectively. Our Foundation for Buddhist Charity and Publishing has clear policies for donations. Not all temples' requests are met. We only send items needed for chanting, not for distribution to lay people, as this leads to superstition rather than practice. Ensuring meaningful donations align with the Buddha's message to think of the poor. Through understanding and practical actions, we create meaningful merit, leading to genuine happiness. Happiness and the middle way. After receiving the offerings, Prince Bodhi posed a question about the nature of happiness. Venerable Lord, in my opinion, happiness does not exist by itself. Happiness exists because there is suffering. This philosophy comprises two parts. The first part reflects the principle of dependent origination, stating that all phenomena exist interdependently, influencing and conditioning each other. Happiness does not exist in itself. It must be supported and conditioned by external factors and environments to bring true joy. The second part asserts that happiness exists because there is suffering. The Blessed One responded, "I once thought like that, but after practicing the middle way, I quickly recognized and acknowledged that this is a mistaken view." The second part is akin to the saying, "After the rain comes the sunshine," which encourages people that experiencing suffering is necessary and that every happiness requires a price, so one should strive forward and not give up halfway. Such encouragement helps people overcome difficulties, but it is mistaken to think that one must endure suffering to achieve true happiness. The Buddha taught that there are methods, if correctly practiced, that lead to success without having to endure any suffering. The issue lies in accurate judgment and implementation. Many people strive repeatedly, fail, and try again, only to remain in the same place without any progress, due to not grasping the right methodology. A few days ago, two young entrepreneurs came to me, having just gone bankrupt due to the stock market. They asked the temple for a charm or amulet to recover their losses. After pondering for a few minutes, I opened a cabinet and took out two Buddha statues, one of Avalokiteshvara and one of Maitreya. I gave the Avalokiteshvara statue to the older one and the Maitreya statue to the younger one, saying, "These are your protective charms. Take them home, honor and worship them, and vow to work righteously. Only then will the Buddha bless you." Naturally, they were somewhat disappointed when advised to give up the stock market. The path to happiness must be built on the right methodology. Correct methods and merit yield virtues, not just praying for the Buddha's blessings or relying on charms. In the story from the sutra, the Buddha did not want Prince Bodhi to be disappointed by the customary beliefs that one must invite the Sangha to bestow blessings for merit. He subtly implied that beyond offering rituals for merit, one must also engage in concrete actions to succeed. Returning to Bodhi's statement, happiness exists because there is suffering, the Buddha was haunted by this notion for 6 years. He became one of the most renowned ascetics of his time. The sutras describe that he ate only 7 sesame seeds a day, a symbolic representation. Sesame seeds are highly nutritious and can strengthen the body, addressing degenerative bone conditions and joint pain. After 6 years of asceticism, the Buddha ensured his longevity until 80 due to this regimen. The Buddha chose the path of severe asceticism because Brahmanical spiritual leaders believed that torturing the senses would extinguish the desire for pleasure, and only when sensory perceptions died completely would happiness begin. Misunderstanding this, many practice severe asceticism, resulting in illness, suffering, and premature death. Most Brahmanical ascetics died between 40 and 50 years old. The Buddha was the only one to live to 80 because he quickly changed to follow the middle way, balancing emotions, life, and material consumption. He stated that upon discovering the middle way, he truly tasted the happiness of enlightenment. Severe asceticism did not lead him anywhere, although he achieved the realms of non-perception, and neither perception nor non-perception during short periods. The realm of non-perception is an insight into the absence of inherent existence. In one way or another, suffering exists because we identify it as ourselves. This contemplation is a temporary therapeutic anesthesia, not a long-term solution, as we still face different forms of suffering after meditation. Suffering remains suffering. The neither perception nor non-perception realm is a meditative state where neither thoughts nor perceptions control the mind. This method is also a partial therapy, offering limited support, but not an ultimate solution. Realizing that severe asceticism led nowhere, the Buddha bathed in the river, regained his health, and meditated with the high determination, "If I do not attain enlightenment, I will not leave this place." After 49 days of correct practice with the middle way, he attained the highest enlightenment. Meditation practice. The Buddha explained to Bodhi that it is unnecessary to endure suffering to achieve happiness. Only correct practice is needed. He introduced the path of meditation. Meditation differs from yoga. While yoga emphasizes physical health to maintain a sound mind, meditation trains the mind to release psychological constraints and suffering. The essence of meditation is letting go, avoiding identifying oneself with pain, adversities, or obstacles, and seeing oneself as a victim. Through meditation with breathing, smiling, and relaxed awareness, practitioners transcend both favorable and unfavorable conditions, attaining high states of happiness. Secondly, through meditation, practitioners achieve the bliss of the first, second, third, and fourth jhanas. This bliss is not sensory but a profound, tranquil state, often compared to immersing in a cool stream on a hot summer day. This bliss results from mental transformation when greed, hatred, and ignorance are shed. Practitioners experience serene, light-hearted states of mind, leading to genuine happiness. Thirdly, for deeper and more enduring happiness, one should choose monastic life to overcome sensory pleasures, especially sexual desire. Sensory pleasure is a chemical reaction in the brain, leading to dependence. Chasing this satisfaction makes one a slave to it. Anything that enslaves and binds cannot be true happiness. Therefore, at a deeper level, happiness for a monastic is liberating from psychological obsessions and sexual desires. Mastering oneself and transforming sexual energy into compassionate service brings greater happiness. For laypeople, practicing meditation at the initial monastic level can provide deeper happiness than ordinary pleasures. Time to attain happiness. After hearing the Buddha's teachings, Prince Bodhi asked, "Venerable Lord, how long does it take to achieve the happiness you described?" The Buddha did not answer directly, but gave an example of training an elephant. He asked Bodhi, "Can a person lacking faith, having many illnesses, being deceitful, lazy, and foolish, succeed in training elephants?" Prince Bodhi answered based on his experience, "Failing in any one of these 5 aspects makes training elephants impossible, let alone having all 5 faults." In ancient times, princes of the Shah class learned to train elephants for warfare and also practice swordsmanship and archery to protect their thrones and military careers, as power relied on military strength. Princes were well versed in elephant training. A trainer without faith cannot handle a fierce elephant. The fiercer the elephant, the more valuable it is. Therefore, faith is essential. Secondly, a trainer needs health to endure and overcome falls. Thirdly, elephants are sensitive and can sense the owner's attitude. If the trainer is deceitful and lacks genuine intention, the elephant will resist, making training difficult. Many trainers die due to their anger and hatred toward elephants. Fourthly, laziness precludes success. A lazy person works sporadically, failing to utilize their potential. Success requires consistent, long-term effort. Finally, without intelligence, one cannot achieve good results despite desires and efforts. After hearing Bodhi's explanation, the Buddha said, "A spiritual seeker, whether lay or monastic, must possess these 5 qualities to attain happiness. When these are present, time becomes irrelevant. 7 years, 7 months, 7 days, or 7 moments depend on the correct methodology." Practicality in the present is a distinct feature of the Buddha's teachings. Therefore, while practicing any method, we should not think of rebirth in the Pure Land after death. Such expectation is mistaken. Practicing the Buddha's teachings brings immediate happiness. If we practice correctly, results manifest quickly. Long-term practice without happiness indicates a wrong path, requiring consultation with a qualified spiritual teacher. Happiness is practice. First, believe that the Buddha is not a deity or God. This distinction is absent in other scriptures, where God is seen as an omnipotent, omnibenevolent, and omniscient creator. The Buddha said these are empty claims made by believers creating gods rather than gods creating humans. The Buddha advised people to believe that he was a human being like us. Through correct practice and the middle way, he achieved serenity and liberation. Therefore, he encouraged faith in him, avoiding self-doubt. This is crucial. Second, maintain health and minimize illness. The Dhammapada states health is the greatest blessing. Many wealthy people suffer chronic illnesses, spending fortunes on medicine in hospitals, unable to eat or sleep well, tormented by pain. Success and true happiness require good health. Practice meditation, walking, Buddhist duties, repentance, and merit-making for health. Balance diet, rest, and work scientifically for enduring health. Third, be truthful and loyal to Buddhist ideals and practice. Truthfulness and loyalty in relationships and to the Dharma means steadfastness despite temptations or coercion to betray. The Dharma brings peace and value to life. Courage ensures loyalty to the Buddha's teachings. Truthfulness, integrity, and selflessness in actions characterize an honest person, leading to success and happiness. Fourth, diligently avoid evil and practice good. Some avoid Buddhism, thinking they have never done wrong, believing Buddhists are sinners. In reality, not doing wrong avoids punishment but does not generate merit. Merit comes from doing good deeds. Thus, avoid evil, do good must be practiced together. Stopping evil prevents future suffering, and doing good erases past misdeeds, changing life's destiny. Fifth, possess wisdom about the arising and cessation of phenomena. Though listed fifth, wisdom supports the previous four factors. The Buddha said wisdom is understanding the arising and cessation of phenomena. With wisdom, one avoids blind faith in deities or fate, seeing clearly that life flows like a river. Understanding this flow allows changing it through will, effort, and transformation. With wisdom, one becomes proactive, not passive or dependent, working diligently for high results. Wisdom about life's arising and cessation includes impermanence, non-self, and dependent origination, the three core insights of Buddhism. Lacking wisdom about arising and cessation, one cannot achieve lasting happiness. Facing loss, suffering, and death, this wisdom prevents despair and loss. Recently, a family brought a young man around 20 who seemed possessed. He was overwhelmed by past excesses, leading to severe mental distress. When asked his name, he gave a woman's name, saying he died long ago, unaware of details. When asked who his parents were, he identified his real father beside him. This confusion indicated mental disorder, not possession. If possessed, he would have identified with a spirit, not his real father. Nervous system disorder caused his identity confusion. When he first saw me, he was terrified, clutching his father, saying, "Teacher, don't come near me," trembling with fear. I advised his family against seeking shamans, suggesting psychiatric treatment. Family support is crucial to prevent long-term madness from identity crisis. I recommended a simple practice, breathing and affirming, "I am not afraid, I am happy, I am peaceful, I am healthy, no one will harm me." It took him 30 minutes to memorize this. A week later, his family reported improvement. Understanding the roots of issues, their arising and cessation, provides solutions. Misjudgment complicates problems. Correct diagnosis and treatment yield quick solutions. 3 times taking refuge in the 3 jewels. After hearing the Buddha's teachings, Prince Bodhi deeply appreciated and bowed to the Buddha. A young attendant was surprised, as those impressed by the Buddha usually took refuge in him. The attendant asked, "Prince, why don't you become the Buddha's disciple? This is a rare opportunity. Having invited the Buddha for offerings, it's easy to take refuge. Don't miss this precious chance." Prince Bodhi bowed again and smiled at the attendant, saying, "Today, I didn't take refuge yet, but it's not my first time. This is my 3rd time. The first was in my mother's womb. The second was at 3 or 4 years old when my Buddhist nurse brought me to meet the Buddha. This is the 3rd time." Then he respectfully requested the Buddha, "Please accept me as your lay disciple from now on." The Buddha agreed. This incident shows that Buddhists can retake refuge when necessary. If one's teacher is still alive, retaking refuge isn't necessary to avoid misunderstanding. One may seek guidance from any qualified teacher outside their own. This aligns with Buddhist encouragement. Suttana visited 52 different teachers. The Buddha in the Amitabha Sutra introduced his disciples to Amitabha Buddha for guidance. In the Medicine Buddha Sutra, he encouraged following the healing practices of Medicine Buddha. The Buddha didn't monopolize disciples but sought assistance from peers in teaching. Following this spirit, teachers shouldn't restrict their students from learning from other capable teachers. Taking refuge in the womb or as a child brings merit and support from relatives, but lacks deep understanding of the Dharma's ideals and ethical life. Retaking refuge helps deepen this understanding. Though already taken refuge, with one's teacher still alive, one can seek another qualified teacher for deeper learning. The number of times taking refuge isn't important. It's about reminding oneself of being a Buddhist, embodying enlightenment in actions, words, and deeds for lasting happiness. The sutra implies that taking refuge in the three jewels is a path to happiness. If an ideal teacher isn't found, one should still take refuge in the three jewels, as Buddhism values principles over individuals. Idolizing a teacher contradicts Buddha's spirit. Taking refuge in the Buddha's teachings and practice path is crucial, unlike other religious customs. Chinese Buddhist tradition honors Master Tiao Lu Shi, who studied Buddhist precepts 30 times, thoroughly understanding them. Repeated learning integrates precepts, ethics, and practice into one's natural response. We tend to feel bored after learning something once. Understanding is one thing, making it part of life is another. Repeated learning deepens understanding and practice. Each reading of a sutra should involve fresh thinking and renewal. Depending on psychological state, perception, and environment, acceptance varies. Reading sutras with a mindset of inquiry and discovery keeps them fresh. Venerable Thich Tri Tink, over 90, leader of Vietnamese Buddhism, daily reads sutras despite long-time monastic life and translating Mahayana scriptures. Summary: the path to happiness involves meritorious deeds with a generous heart, addressing the needs of the unfortunate. Secondly, the essence of happiness lies in the middle way, not through suffering. Thirdly, the time to achieve happiness depends on correct methodology and practice. Right practice leads to quick results. Wrong practice may take decades without progress. Fourthly, the path to happiness involves practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, having faith, health, honesty, diligence in doing good, and wisdom about the arising and cessation of phenomena, leading to present life peace and happiness. Finally, regardless of talent or intelligence, one shouldn't miss the opportunity to take refuge in the three jewels. Some anonymous Buddhists read sutras and practice well but hesitate to take refuge, thinking they're better than monks. Refuge isn't about skill, it's about finding the right path. Compared to the Buddha, we're like grains of sand compared to Mount Meru, fireflies to the sun, drops of water to the ocean. Taking refuge offers invaluable learning from the Buddha and becoming like him. Taking refuge in the Dharma empowers practice. Following the Dharma avoids idolizing individuals, preventing disappointment. Monastics and laypeople should regard the three jewels as their teacher. Buddhist texts don't mandate exclusive loyalty to one teacher. The initial teacher guides us to become disciples of all genuine practitioners, avoiding sectarianism and promoting common benefit. This is the primary spirit emphasized in this sutra. Chapter 2, The Art of Living Happily. Introduction to the Kandaraka Sutta. The Art of Living Happily in the Kandaraka Sutta, number 51 in the middle-length discourses, involves two key practices. 1. To attain happiness, never sow the seeds of suffering for yourself or others. 2. Build happiness by cultivating the seeds of happiness with skill and method. The dramatic essence of this sutta illustrates many desires, searches, and expectations of happiness end up entangled with and clinging to suffering. If happiness begins with passion, a sense of responsibility, and persistent effort, these are merely necessary factors, but not the crucial or decisive ones. Methodology, practice, and the path of spiritual transformation are the true measures of a genuinely happy life. The sutta is a dialogue between the Buddha and the ascetic Khandaraka and his son about the nature of religion and truth. Through this brief dialogue, the Buddha introduces a spiritual lifestyle aimed at empowering humans to overcome suffering. Commonly, happiness is equated with sensory pleasures, such as quenching thirst, satisfying hunger, wearing new clothes, fulfilling the need for adornment, and maintaining physical health. Equating sensory pleasures with happiness leads many to sacrifice their true happiness in pursuit of material values. In this context, the pebbles of material desire and the economic globalization can diminish human happiness if not sifted out. Therefore, Buddhism introduces happiness from a perspective tied to ethical living, ensuring it brings humanistic and peaceful values to oneself without causing harm to others. The essence of happiness in Buddhism is intertwined with the concept of goodness. The definition of goodness includes two aspects. Firstly, it brings ethical benefits to oneself and others. These ethical benefits' value and effect extend beyond the present to the future. This is the basic measure of what is termed goodness. Similarly, the Buddha linked the nature of goodness with behaviors leading to happiness. Sensory pleasures, momentary exhilaration, material joys, conveniences, and conditions leading to a comfortable life are not the essence of happiness because they only satisfy a small part of the present and are challenged by the law of time. In the future, these pleasures may not persist in the same way and might even appear oppositely. Secondly, in the pursuit of livelihood, equating means to happiness, many violate laws and abandon ethical living. This is not considered happiness. Happiness in Buddhism must be associated with ethical living and spiritual transformation. The sutta unfolds in three parts. The first is Khandaraka's declaration about the educational nature of the Buddha's Dharma. The second is Pesa's, Khandaraka's son, statement about ethical living and the nature of suffering and happiness in life. The third is the Buddha's declaration. These three statements provide a comprehensive view of happiness in general and the path of spiritual transformation in Buddhism. Khandaraka's praise. Once while the Buddha was living near Gagara Lake in Kampa, a handsome young man named Pesa, accompanied by his father Khandaraka, came to visit the Blessed One. Observing the thousands of monks sitting silently under the trees, the two were profoundly impressed and felt that no words could express their reverence for the Buddha's moral and spiritual training of the monastic community. Khandaraka exclaimed, "The enlightened one is truly marvelous and rare. All the monks under his spiritual guidance have either attained or are on the path to attaining the noble fruits." The Pali Canon refers to them as those attained the level of non-learning and those on the path of learning. The term non-learning is a technical term describing one who has completed ethical education and no longer requires further moral and spiritual training. Such a person no longer reverts to lay life, is not entangled in worldly pleasures and pains, and is not influenced by worldly fluctuations of honor and disgrace. On the other hand, learning here does not imply extensive knowledge, but describes those on the path to completing ethical and spiritual education. On the path means they are not regressing and are progressing until there is nothing more to learn and attain. An adept who attains the noble fruits is described in Pali as, "The afflictions and sufferings have fallen away, the noble life has been accomplished. What should be done has been done, what should be avoided has been transcended. The burden of suffering in the cycle of birth and death has been laid down. The ideal of practice has been accomplished. All mental and perceptual fetters have been eradicated. Truly liberated by wisdom, they do not return to a state of suffering." These statements describe the nature of an adept who has attained the noble fruits, which is the inevitable result of a methodical path of practice towards happiness and away from suffering. Those on the path of learning are described as on the path of morality, with a system of precepts as safeguards for the senses, enabling practitioners to live mindfully, well established in the four foundations of mindfulness regarding the body, mind, feelings, and mental objects, dhammas. Lay Buddhists who practice mindfulness as taught by the Buddha can attain noble fruits like the monastics. The opportunity to become noble beings is open to all. The crucial point is the method and practice of cultivation. This is the declaration about the educational nature of the Buddha as a path to spiritual perfection, lauding him as an educator of morality and spirituality. This praise is skillfully linked to the event of Khandharaka and his son, witnessing thousands of monks in absolute silence under the Buddha's spiritual guidance in the forest. Absolute silence is challenging to achieve. There are two forms of silence. Silence in verbal expression. A person may not speak, socialize, or express their attitude, knowledge, opinions, or ideas about anything. This silence may indicate agreement but could also signify opposition. This is not absolute silence. Someone silently agreeing will have internal dialogues of appreciation and admiration. Conversely, those opposing will engage in monologues, reasoning, creating dramas. They play both protagonist and antagonist roles, debating with views they disagree with. This silence is a form of extensive internal monologue. Absolute silence, trained by Buddhist practitioners, is the art of focusing the mind on the four objects of mindfulness. Firstly, being aware of one's existence at the moment of mindfulness practice. Observing bodily movements makes the mind uninvolved with external objects or phenomena. Thus, the mind becomes tranquil. Human emotions generally exist in conjunction with the body. Without proper training, emotions may wander or become entangled in any sensory-related issue. Practitioners maintaining mindfulness keep emotions balanced and controlled, understanding their nature and returning them to the present. Consequently, their mind no longer harbors mixed joy and sorrow. Practitioners control their mind, observing its reactions, good or bad, greed or non-greed, anger or non-anger, ignorance or wisdom, transforming these into tools for their practice. They fully control their senses and mental responses to external objects. The four foundations of mindfulness enable practitioners to achieve internal silence, perceiving the tranquility and depth within. They no longer crave sensory pleasures, achieving serenity reflected in their eyes, face, expressions, and posture. Those who are silently agreeable or opposing can only maintain this state for a limited time. Absolute silence through meditative training allows extending tranquility as desired. Ancient practitioners aimed to calm emotions and thoughts entirely, achieving stillness for days, months, or years. Absolute silence is crucial for opening the spiritual path. Modern Buddhist meditation retreats worldwide often require practitioners, regardless of religious background, to minimize unnecessary reasoning and discussion, focusing only on issues related to practice and emotional transformation. Reducing speech helps individuals return to themselves. Those who talk much tend to socialize, seeking sensory joy through interaction. In contrast, those with inner tranquility spend more time reflecting on their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. These different tendencies lead to different paths of suffering and happiness. Pesa's observations. After Khandharaka praised the Buddha's spiritual and ethical education, his son Pesa, a potential Buddhist, made 3 observations. 1. Pesa asserted, "The practice of mindfulness on body, mind, emotions, and thoughts can help practitioners overcome all suffering in life. It purifies them, enables them to conquer sorrow, attain wisdom, and realize nirvana." However, he concluded, "Lay people like us sometimes practice, but with limited time, our results are minimal compared to the monastics practicing under the Buddha's spiritual guidance in this forest." Pesa's assessment of the 4 foundations of mindfulness aligns with the Buddha's teachings, using meditation to transform emotions as a means. Meditation involves 2 aspects, the tool and the tranquility achieved through correct use. Without proper tools and methods, the desire and concept of happiness may not be realized. The tools and methods here involve the body, emotions, mind, and thoughts. Typically, human consciousness is drawn to aesthetic values of the body. People who emphasize appearance are concerned with general and specific features, form, color, posture, fashion, and aesthetics. Their lives are absorbed by external appearance, losing the ability for self-reflection. Human emotions fluctuate like tides. The concept of happiness and suffering often parallels emotional tides. When emotions surge, one may feel joy, expressed in smiles and laughter. But when emotions recede, suffering, tears, sorrow, and fear emerge, dominating them. Using emotions as a tool for contemplation, practitioners recognize their relative nature, preventing control by them. Similarly, they observe their mind, its steps, movements, changes, motives, attitudes, tendencies, and goals, whether good or bad, desirable or undesirable, valuable or worthless, ethical or unethical, correcting it towards genuine happiness. Thoughts often create endless trouble for those lacking mental control. Sensory contact through eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body leaves impressions influencing memories, fantasies, evaluations of value or worthlessness, forming attitudes. These attitudes cause losing oneself in the past or future, ignoring present value. Therefore, body, emotions, mind, and thoughts are tools helping practitioners establish mental tranquility. They achieve silence, speaking only necessary, beneficial words, dedicating energy to contemplation, understanding life's essence, and freeing themselves from suffering. 2. The Blessed One understands the essence of happiness and suffering in the human world, full of confusion, impurities, and deceit. This statement may shock many. Only the Blessed One truly comprehends the nature of happiness and suffering in a world entangled in sensory attachments. It is a world of deceit, where people cheat and harm each other, competing for benefits, disregarding others' happiness or suffering. It is the residue of enslavement to erroneous customs, paths lacking contentment, blocking the gateways of creativity and spiritual discovery. Pesa's recognition affirms the Buddha's educational path broadens human vision, enabling practitioners to become more insightful and overcome personal challenges. Believing the Buddha's words can unleash one's greatest potential. Potential is infinite. Everyone has equal inherent potential, but self-confidence and method determine its value. How this potential is harnessed through method is crucial. 3. Comparing human nature with animals, Pesa said, "How confused is the human world, how open is the animal world." After this statement, Pesa explained, "As an experienced elephant trainer, I can subdue wild elephants, recognizing their deceit and turning them into well-trained performers for festivals and cultural events. This skill is achievable by trained elephant trainers. However, I cannot clearly see the mind and actions of humans. Understanding human mind and behavior is extremely difficult. That is the confused world." Pesa implied seeing humans' exterior, but not their inner mind. Actions, words, external expressions may somewhat align with thoughts, but can also be completely opposite. In other words, humans' words and deeds rarely match. This discrepancy is a trap, leading to emotional entanglements, losing oneself in relationships. Pesa provided concrete examples. Even his servants assisting in elephant training, when asked to perform tasks, responded affirmatively, committing to follow instructions. Yet in reality, they did differently. People may speak well but act poorly, talk methodically but act arbitrarily. Thus, the gap between words and deeds, knowledge and reality, method and result, expectation and achievement becomes a significant challenge for those seeking success. Affirmation of the Blessed One. Seize the opportunity to elevate spiritual values. After hearing the 3 observations, the Buddha asked Pesa, "In this world, which of the 4 types of people do you prefer?" The first type is the person who inflicts suffering on themselves. The second is the person who inflicts suffering on others. The third is the person who inflicts suffering on both themselves and others. The fourth is the person who neither inflicts suffering on themselves nor on others. Pesa replied, "Blessed One, we have encountered the first 3 types of people frequently in life and interactions, and I do not wish to become one of them. For I see clearly that, even among ourselves and such people, the desire for happiness is there, but they end up embracing suffering due to lack of method and guidance. What I appreciate most is the 4th type of person, who neither inflicts suffering on themselves nor on others, does not become a burden to society, and does not cause concern or worry with their actions, words, or deeds." Having answered the Buddha's question, the father and son sought permission to leave, citing the many tasks they had to attend to. The Blessed One bid them farewell. After they had left, the Buddha called all the monks together. He said, "Among the father and son, Pesa has the potential for understanding and wisdom, the capacity to practice goodness because he comprehends the methods. However, it is unfortunate that if they had stayed and listened to the detailed analysis of the 4 types of people, Pesa's path to wisdom and capabilities would have advanced far beyond what he currently possesses." Here, it is worth noting that opportunities are often missed due to livelihood concerns. facing the Blessed One, discussing the essence of religion, truth, ethics, happiness, and suffering, they still missed the chance to absorb the spiritual wisdom the Blessed One could impart. Opportunities are not lost because they do not come, but because people are often unwilling to receive them. Sometimes when truth knocks, we wave it away. Many who come to help are met with suspicion. Skepticism about cause and effect and improper questioning methods make many miss their chances. Or when faced with constructive feedback or discussions to resolve our dilemmas, feelings of inferiority arise, causing us to close off, deny, and not accept the paths others might offer us. Opportunities are missed because people are not ready to embrace them. Everyone is busy, but by visiting a temple with Dharma activities and classes, people can at least spend a few hours a week enriching their spiritual life. Although ethical paths and practices can be updated through reading scriptures, listening to lectures, reading books, or online resources, attending retreats or being at the temple offers a psychological contagion, encouraging diligence and overcoming obstacles more easily and successfully. Practicing alone at home sometimes leads to boredom and excuses, missing the chance to elevate oneself. In this case, the father and son Kandaraka praised the Blessed One and correctly identified the essence of the Dharma path as bringing happiness. But when the time came for the Blessed One to share more deeply, they asked to defer analysis of the 4 types of people who inflict suffering on themselves. Ancient Indian asceticism includes 4 forms. 1. Naked asceticism. This erroneous method believes that living naked, enduring hardships, suppressing emotions, and punishing the body can eliminate sexual desires and household enjoyments, thus leading to liberation. This flawed method led many to futile efforts. Even the Buddha experienced such practices before realizing their futility. Naked asceticism and other forms of self-mortification often result in physical ailments, deteriorated mental and spiritual health, hindering the best potential transformation. Those practicing naked asceticism may sow seeds of future poverty, having clothes but not wearing them, food but not eating it. 2. Cyclic fasting. Practitioners eat on schedules depending on their endurance. Some eat once every 2 days, 7 days, or even a month, sometimes surviving on sesame seeds to prove their endurance and eliminate sensory pleasure needs. They believe such endurance leads to liberation. Some eat grass, rice, seaweed, or cow dung. The Buddha deemed such practices not only unhelpful for enlightenment, but likely to cause rebirth as animals or livestock. 3. Austerity in dress. Practitioners wear coarse fabrics, burial shrouds, or bark, grass, or women's hair woven into garments. Such living never brings happiness, only hardship against harsh weather. 4. Self-inflicted pain. Practitioners submerge in the Ganges during winter, pluck hair with available tools, stand all day without sitting, or pierce their bodies with spikes to shed blood, hoping to eliminate all worldly desires. These self-torturing methods lack any basis and result in no peace or happiness. Introducing the self-inflicted suffering traditions in Buddhist culture helps rescue adherents from such religions, for many imitate the harsh ascetics. Brahmanic practice involves 4 life stages, the 4th being forced asceticism after familial responsibilities are met. Traditional Brahmin life becomes stuck in the 4th stage, mistaking self-punishment for happiness. Many sutras repeatedly critique these futile practices, yet modern Indians often idolize harsh ascetics for their extreme endurance, though such efforts serve no happiness or peace. Modern self-harm manifests in various forms, such as extreme dieting for appearance, risking health like the world supermodel who died in 2006 from excessive dieting to maintain a record thinness. Body needs must match work energy. Imbalance leads to illness. Proper exercise and balanced diet are essential for health, not self-imposed deprivation. Another example is consuming toxins, unhealthy food, alcohol, drugs, or tobacco, satisfying momentary tastes but causing long-term suffering and diseases. Additionally, misers who hoard money without spending or helping others fail to use it for life's happiness, another form of self-punishment. People who inflict suffering on others. 3 basic types. 1. Killers. The Buddha described those who butcher animals or hunt for food, earning little but creating significant karmic burden. 2. Criminals. Those who steal, engage in dishonest trades, produce weapons or poisons or counterfeit drugs causing death and suffering. 3. Executors and security enforcers. Those who execute criminals or enforce laws with violence can ensure public safety but must avoid hatred and punishment motives, or they incur significant karmic consequences. Judges and enforcers must practice compassion and understand karma to avoid unjust punishments and maintain societal peace. Such actions still carry karmic weight but are lighter with proper ethical training. People who inflict suffering on themselves and others. The Buddha cited superstitious sacrificial traditions. Brahmanic kings seeking long reigns and officials seeking wealth would sacrifice many animals, contradicting the intended blessings and incurring short lifespans. An example includes a king's grand temple construction for sacrifices, dressing humbly and enduring discomfort. Rituals included milking cows, with the king, priests, queen, and others partaking in a sequence, believing each drop of milk brought blessings. Such large-scale animal sacrifices caused immense suffering and community burdens. Such superstitious practices persist. Transforming harmful customs takes centuries. Wrong traditions can spread quickly with influential figures, while correct practices are less lauded. The Buddha said wrong practices cause communal suffering, compelling people into unwanted acts. Modern analogs include harmful political policies causing widespread suffering, or misguided religious practices like suicide bombings, spreading terror and societal fear. Misguided leadership inflicts mass suffering through historical and communal karma. People who neither inflict suffering on themselves nor others. The ideal type, constituting 10% of the global population, aware and methodical in their success. The remaining 90% share similar desires but lack proper religious guidance, falling into temptations and missing happiness. Buddha's teachings describe ideal individuals, including monks who transform lust into compassion, and lay people who manage family life without prioritizing sexual pleasure. Ideal lay people understand family as a temporary necessity, not ultimate happiness. Such individuals, through the 4 foundations of mindfulness, become serene, not slaves to desires, easily finding happiness. The Buddha said such people live in a Brahma body, metaphorically harmonizing with Brahma's nature, embodying love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. These qualities transcend mere fear of divine punishment, promoting true moral and ethical development for others' happiness. Introducing a method for becoming the 4th type, Buddha outlined 3 groups achieving this ideal. 1. Buddhas, self-enlightened, independently achieving and sharing the path for others. 2 noble ones, arhats and bodhisattvas, ordinary people pursuing ethical and spiritual development, aspiring to become like the Buddha. 3 steps to the art of living happily. Step 1. Complete personal moral development. No killing replaced by compassion. No stealing replaced by generosity. No adultery replaced by fidelity. No lying replaced by truth-telling. No divisiveness replaced by harmony. No harsh speech replaced by kind words. No frivolous talk replaced by meaningful speech. No excessive adornment replaced by simplicity. No unethical professions replaced by compassion and equality. These foundational ethics surpass material wealth, focusing on the essence of happiness through personal morality. Step 2. Train the mind for genuine awareness in every action, including utilizing supportive environments like retreats or temples for tranquility, addressing 5 hindrances: desire, ill will, sloth, restlessness, doubt. Step 3. Attain liberating wisdom. Wisdom in past life karma, understanding its lessons. Wisdom in future rebirths, discerning karmic causes and effects. Wisdom in eliminating all suffering. Achieving enlightenment. Many experience temporary joy from teachings but revert to previous states. True enlightenment eradicates suffering comprehensively. In summary, the sutra teaches: 1. Do not cause suffering for oneself or others. 2. Enhance deeper capabilities through meditative insight, freeing oneself from psychological and habitual constraints for lasting happiness. 3. Have faith and practice consistently for genuine long-term happiness. Pessa's excuse of limited time for 4 foundations practice is rebutted. Diligent practice everywhere ensures enduring happiness, transcending formal settings. Following Buddha's teachings transforms one into a serene, joyful, and enlightened being, sharing happiness with all.
Application of the Eightfold Path in life: right action, righteous action, and holy action. Welcome back, everyone, to Mind Podcast. Right action is one of the 8 crucial factors that help ordinary people become saints. In the Pali Canon, right action is described in 2 forms: righteous action and holy action. Righteous action helps the practitioner accumulate merit in the human and heavenly realms. Holy action assists the ordinary person in becoming extraordinary, transcending the mundane. Lay people often cultivate righteous action, while monastics aspire toward holy action. Therefore, depending on the scope, posture, and perspective of practice, we gain different values in life. The Anguttara Nikaya and Majjhima Nikaya offer various definitions regarding righteous action, which consistently include non-killing, non-stealing, and abstaining from sexual misconduct and sensual pleasures. Although the definition is simple, its application is elaborately detailed in the scriptures. A connection is drawn to help us easily understand the essence of righteous action as the foundation leading to holy action. In other words, there is no holy action of a saint does not encompass righteous action. The Anguttara Nikaya and the Pali Canon describe 2 types of actions, one directed by human intention and the other accidental. Intentional actions tend to have higher efficacy in producing virtuous deeds, with the resulting merit proportional to the mental state and motivation at the time of action, during the action, and after the action. Some actions, though unintentional, still lead to the same outcome. In terms of the physical aspect of cause and effect, these may seem similar, but the resulting merit varies significantly, as illustrated by the following example. Unintentional actions. Consider someone who has a large umbrella and opens it even though no one is sitting beneath it. The owner's intention is to provide shade for customers coming to drink water in the afternoon. Suppose there is a sudden morning rain and people take shelter under the umbrella, avoiding getting wet. Clearly, the merit for the umbrella owner is not significant, since the owner did not intend to open the umbrella to provide shade or shelter from the rain. It was merely a coincidence that passers-by used it. In this case, the merit gained is minimal. Similarly, a large tree stands, and during floods, storms, and rising waters, various creatures like ants and reptiles climb the tree to survive. The tree itself did not intend to grow and provide a safe haven for these creatures during the floods. In reality, the outcome seems to offer support. These are accidental actions, but it would be a mistake to think that actions without intention have no consequence. Although unintentional actions result in less merit, all actions, whether intentional or not, produce physical outcomes, and in legal terms the effects are similar. For instance, a careless driver may cause an accident that results in death, even though there was no intent to kill. The driver must bear legal responsibility and face various consequences. Even though there was no intention to kill, the careless action still results in negative outcomes for both the driver and the victim's family. From a Buddhist perspective, why is it said that unintentional actions have no karmic consequences? In my opinion, this misunderstanding arises from a misinterpretation of the Buddha's teachings. The Anguttara Nikaya includes the following statement: Ananda, intention is karma. When there is intention, a person tends to manifest actions through speech or deeds. Most interpretations focus on the impact of intention on physical actions and neglect the reverse interaction between the body and mental action. The latter part of the Buddha's statement, when there is intention, a person tends to manifest actions through speech or deeds, is often overlooked. This statement does not imply that unintentional actions have no consequence. Buddha never stated that. He simply said that intention is karma. In science, there are theorems and laws that apply in one direction, and reversing them would be incorrect. Not all laws and theorems work in both directions. Every action has a consequence. Intention is a type of karma. Saying that actions without intention have no karma is vastly different from actions without intention having no consequences. Many scholars today mistakenly believe that unintentional actions have no consequence. In the biological world, countless unintentional actions occur, yet their consequences still exist. For example, a strong wind may break tree branches, causing them to fall onto power lines, resulting in a fatal electrocution, or injure someone walking below. Alternatively, a falling tree might cause a car accident, leading to multiple fatalities. These actions occur without malicious intent from anyone, yet the consequences are still present. Reflecting on such situations clearly shows that all actions have results. Intentional actions, especially those with positive intent, yield greater merit, but unintentional actions also produce outcomes. The law distinguishes between intentional and unintentional killings, as well as killings driven by malice or self-defense. All these are evaluated based on the intent, motive, and degree of action involved. From ancient times, the Buddha emphasized this aspect. Unfortunately, some people have misunderstood and misinterpreted these teachings, which highlight the importance of intentional actions and mental attitudes. These are considered a form of karma, although we cannot see their form, appearance, or specific activity. Without them, there would be no actions involving speech, writing, bodily movements, or other human activities. Intentional actions come in two forms: negative intention and positive intention, personal intention and intention for others. Most of us tend to use ourselves as the reference point, with intentions revolving around us, leading to less impactful results. When someone comes to Buddhism through faith, believing that the Buddha can grant blessings for their actions, they may pray for blessings for themselves, their loved ones, and their families in general, wishing for abundance, prosperity, good health, long life, promotions, and various other desires. In reality, not all prayers yield the same results. Here, we see that self-centered prayers are considered selfish prayers. Selfish prayers result in limited blessings, yielding only a relatively small return. Plant one seed and you might reap 2 or 3, but not 20, 30, 2 or 300, or 2 or 3,000. Praying while performing virtuous deeds to benefit oneself or one's loved ones is akin to bargaining with karma, and such prayers will never yield the expected results. For example, if one offers 10 oranges, 5 bananas, water, incense, and flowers to the Buddha and prays for many things, how can that be possible? The outcome of praying while making offerings may result in receiving help from others during difficult times. But this is inevitable. Sowing a few seeds and expecting a large harvest is driven by excessive greed. The mentality of doing little and wanting much will cause our prayers to fall into selfishness. True Buddhists should avoid and minimize such actions. In the central region of Vietnam, floods often cause significant devastation, leaving many homeless, diseased, and facing severe agricultural losses. The country's attention turns toward the affected region, and many engage in charitable acts, hoping to dedicate the merit to their parents. Although this intention is good, the dedication is misplaced. Using the suffering of many as a foundation for one's merit is a selfish act. Instead, we should shift our perspective. When providing support to those suffering in the central region, we should think, I am fully aware that delays in aid cause additional suffering for the people in the central region. I vow that this support will reach them as soon as possible. I hope everyone knows that we are always ready to share and help them endure and overcome the hardships caused by the disaster. I pray that such suffering does not continue in the future. Whether or not natural disasters occur again depends on other governing laws. These sincere actions and prayers are considered altruistic. Dedication of merit practitioners should strive to transform their prayers into vows. Prayers contain elements of selfishness, while vows open one's heart to all sentient beings, practicing compassion at the highest level. When praying or making vows, one should wish for the well-being of others. The essence of vows or prayers is merely a catalyst. The results are not always guaranteed. For instance, one plants an orange seed and prays for it to become a Bodhi tree. This will undoubtedly not happen. Any positive action, whether accompanied by prayer or not, will bear fruit according to its natural law. For example, if one diligently studies literature every day, even without praying, one will eventually become a writer, poet, thinker, or creator. There is a dialectical relationship between cause and effect. Offering gifts to the Buddha in hopes of gaining wisdom is unlikely to succeed. Such merit will bring material comforts, but wisdom arises from moral conduct, meditation, or extensive study of the Buddha's teachings. The two are vastly different, so no amount of prayer can change that. Understanding this relationship between cause and effect reduces unnecessary prayers. In Vietnam and China, it is common for people to write petitions for safety or dedicate merit to the deceased. These petitions are then sent to temples, where they are placed on large bells, put into ritual bowls, or placed under Buddha statues, in the belief that the Buddha will bless their loved ones with safety or help the deceased attain rebirth. It's not that simple. We should gradually abandon such practices because they are not part of Buddhism. Praying for safety is a psychological support that can have positive effects on the body, especially for those who are ill or in difficult circumstances. The value of cause and effect is established based on the mind. When we initiate a thought, it emits a frequency into the universe. Whether we pray or not, it remains the same, and the results will correspond accordingly. There's no need to pray for it to appear, nor does it vanish without prayer. When dedicating merit from offerings or other virtuous deeds, one only needs to think, I dedicate this merit to my father name and my mother name, so that they may benefit from the Dharma. The outcome depends on two factors. First, the sincerity of the dedication. If it is genuine and not superficial, 1/7 of the merit, as stated in the Kshitigarbha Sutra, will be transferred to the person to whom it is dedicated. Second, the recipient's willingness to accept the merit. They do not joyfully accept it. The merit remains unutilized, similar to a bank transfer that is not claimed. If we care for someone and transfer money from Bank A to their account at Bank C, but they refuse to accept it, the money remains unused. In the same way, dedicating merit is an art of expanding our compassion. It broadens our concern, generosity, and support for others and sentient beings in general. Instead of writing petitions for safety or rebirth, we should dedicate merit sincerely while performing virtuous deeds, allowing the energy of our mind to spread. The one who makes the offering will receive merit, and the one who receives the dedication will benefit from 1/7 of the merit. Writing names for safety or rebirth and sending them to temples only leads to superstitious practices, while the traditional method of dedicating merit taught by the Buddha is neglected. Once we grasp the connection between intention leading to karma through actions, speech, and the positive intention behind actions, we can delve into the three main aspects the Buddha analyzed in the scriptures. Non-harming. This concept has sparked significant debate. Some strict Buddhist scholars argue that non-harming includes not harming any living beings. Therefore, the first precept of the 5 precepts begins with abstaining from killing, which is interpreted as abstaining from eating meat. Such an interpretation is overly strict. In the first precept for lay people, the Buddha primarily advises against killing humans. He does not prohibit eating meat, although there is a distant connection between killing and eating. Without someone killing, there would be no one to sell meat for us to cook and eat. The essence of the first precept is to help us cultivate the seeds of loving kindness, with the highest form being compassion, to respect the lives of others, and to protect peace. This is the most crucial aspect. Historically, economic conflicts have often been resolved through violence. Capitalism emerged by conquering poor nations, under the guise of bringing civilization to undeveloped countries. As a result, many poor countries were colonized by richer nations, primarily because those countries had superior military power and advanced weaponry. This severely damaged the seed of compassion and is unacceptable in the context of the 20th century and beyond. If the United Nations had studied the Buddhist teachings earlier, solutions involving the use of force to resolve economic, territorial, and national interest disputes would have been greatly reduced. The United Nations calls for the elimination of nuclear weapons, weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons, and advanced weaponry to reduce the threat of genocide to humanity and other living beings. The first aspect includes resolving all such disputes through dialogue based on negotiation and compromise. Negotiation demonstrates a level of understanding. Instead of killing each other with guns, we can use diplomacy to reach an agreement and cease the conflict with a ceasefire agreement. When negotiation fails, people resort to compromise. How much benefit each side will gain. When benefits are agreed upon, a ceasefire is more likely, reducing the loss of human life to the maximum extent. In reality, negotiation and compromise are always conducted simultaneously. The forms of colonial invasion and annexation by imperialism and capitalism, unacceptable. Buddhism respects the sovereignty and independence of each nation and calls on everyone to do the same. The first aspect is to build peace based on respect for human life. Such action is called righteous action. We develop this action to a higher level called holy action, which involves showing compassion toward all living beings by not eating their flesh, not killing them, and not raising them. Lay people may find it challenging to practice this fully, as most still consume meat. Many people earn a living through fishing, food processing, animal husbandry, etc. These industries bring substantial profits to producers, but carry heavy karmic consequences. Someone once asked me, their family produces sausage, processing several dozen tons each day. Previously, they only sold it. High demand led them to both sell and produce. Production involves direct killing, while selling involves indirect killing. Between the two, direct production carries heavier karma. Selling without directly engaging in killing results in less bad karma, making it a better option than producing. The profit margin between selling and producing is about 20%. Earning slightly less but reducing the killing karma for various species is still better. I suggested that the business owners seriously consider the profit difference between direct killing and production versus just selling. Initially, they may see a loss of about 50% of revenue. The second aspect is the negative karma they must bear in this life, manifested through various diseases, premature death, accidents, and other consequences in future lives. They should weigh these factors to make an easier decision. It is better to give up direct killing and, if necessary, continue with indirect involvement until they can find a better occupation that does not involve killing. Practice of animal husbandry, butchering livestock, slaughtering, skinning, dismembering, roasting, cooking, frying, etc., is direct killing and brings about significant negative consequences, while the income from such work is not much higher than in other professions. Convincing someone to immediately give up this work is difficult. I advise them to clearly understand that such actions bring negative consequences. The cost of medicine they will need later when the bad karma manifests will be far higher than their wages. From an economic perspective, continuing in such work will lead to 100% loss. If they cannot give up this work immediately, they should find a better occupation and gradually transition away from the killing karma. Such action, which is considered righteous, can evolve into a holy action, bringing life to others. Respecting life. Taking proactive steps toward holy action in this situation involves the practice of releasing life. Releasing, restoring, and reviving life. There are many ways to release life: releasing birds, fish, or helping sick people become healthy, assisting those in despair to regain vitality and hope, thereby renewing their lives. Releasing life is not limited to animals. Releasing animals brings only relative merit. Currently, some countries engage in such practices, especially those influenced by Buddhism, where there are Chinese and Vietnamese communities. People enjoy buying fish and birds for release. However, these animals often return to the starting point or are recaptured during their newfound freedom. Unintentionally, they become intermediaries for people to gain merit, while the hunters and sellers accumulate bad karma. Buddhists should buy animals for release spontaneously, without premeditation. By doing so, we avoid creating karma by ordering others to capture them. The merit gained is minimal, but the crime of being complicit in encouraging others to capture them is greater. Without buyers, there would be no capture. Wherever I encounter people selling animals for release, I advise them to give up that profession. They often respond, "If we didn't do this, how would the monks, nuns, and Buddhists have a source to make merit? You should thank me because, thanks to me, you get to do good deeds." While there is some truth to this, it is important to remember that while people gain merit, those who facilitate it incur negative karma. The Buddha taught, a virtuous action must be beneficial to others, but also to oneself. If it benefits others but harms oneself, it should not be followed. Therefore, any occupation that does not bring significant returns but profits from the lives and deaths of animals is never good. The compassionate action of the saints is to transmit the essence of love, to release suffering, to untangle bonds, and to create opportunities for life to be restored. In Buddhist pilgrimage sites, practice of releasing birds has only emerged in the past 10 years. It was not common before. Chinese, Vietnamese, Japanese, and Korean people enjoy releasing animals. The local poor in these areas beg for money in various ways, such as tugging at one's clothes, grabbing one's pants, holding one's hand, making tourists feel pity or annoyance, so they give money to get rid of them. Such actions sometimes harm compassion. In India, cows, goats, buffaloes, dogs, and other animals live closely with humans. When we approach them, they don't fear us. The birds are the same. For thousands of years, the collective karma of the Indian people has been not to kill them for meat. Meat eaters consume only certain types of meat. Muslims eat meat, but only beef, goat, and chicken. Christians and Protestants eat all types of meat. Hindus who do not practice strict vegetarianism from birth consume only 3 types of meat: chicken, goat, and fish. Each of these animals represents only one species, not the hundreds or thousands of species consumed in Vietnam and China. In all the markets of India, even in states predominantly Muslim, Christian, or Protestant, there are very few meat and fish sellers, usually just 1 or 2 stalls, because they do not want to create karma for themselves. Meat eaters typically purchase large animals to feed their families for 2 days, with only 1 killing for the whole family. They do not prioritize taste. Throughout India, even in luxurious hotels and restaurants, there are few vegetarian dishes. Meat dishes consist of simple chicken, goat, or pork. They prepare them simply without extravagance. Whether rich, poor, or a billionaire, they are not attached to taste. One way to protect life within the precept of non-harming is to engage in charity. Charitable deeds are more meaningful and practical than releasing animals. While many people on this planet die of hunger and thirst, some people choose not to help them, but instead release animals. Saving a human life is far more valuable and beneficial than saving animals. We do not discriminate against animals, but this is the reality. Who knows, among those dying of hunger and thirst could be geniuses, prodigies, moral figures, or spiritual leaders of the future. Helping them is helping many people in the future. Wherever we see suffering and pain, we should strive to help, and when we do, we should not pray for ourselves and our loved ones. Doing so will increase our merit many times more than any small prayer. Charity. In our pilgrimages to India and Nepal, we conduct charitable activities, usually raising between $8,000 to $12,000 from members of our group. This time, in addition to over $11,000 in charity, the members of our group also pledged to support over 100 monks and nuns studying in India, each receiving $50, and to make offerings to temples. These actions are highly meaningful because although there are many billionaires in India, helping the unfortunate is rarely a concern for them. Their society is stratified by caste and class, so they do not engage in charity. International visitors do much of the charitable work. To do charity well in India, one must be skillful. If you see poor people on the street and ask them to line up, you will never be able to distribute aid. By the time you've helped the 5th or 10th person, the rest will rush in to grab whatever they can, even fighting each other. As a result, we must stop for fear of causing harm or creating chaos. Therefore, we enlist the help of temples at the pilgrimage sites to distribute vouchers to poor families. They gather in the temple, sit quietly, practice meditation, and direct their minds toward the Buddha's teachings. Our delegation comes and teaches them the art of smiling gently, smiling with laughter, so that their suffering and pain are released from their bodies and minds whenever they face difficulty. Only then do we give them gifts. This method is more stable. We close the doors, distribute the gifts, and gradually open the doors to let them leave in an orderly manner. Otherwise, it is impossible to distribute aid. The psychology of the poor in India is such that they fear missing out, so they push and shove. Supporting monks and nuns studying in India is crucial. Buddhists in India have little money to make offerings. Without contributions from pilgrim delegations, relatives abroad, or capable teachers, many monks and nuns would have to return home after 1 or 2 years due to a lack of funds. In India, after 5 years, one can live anywhere. Difficulties, sufferings, and challenges of life are all present there. After gaining experience and enduring hardships, it becomes much easier to propagate the Dharma. This is an excellent training environment. The precept of non-harming includes protecting peace and respecting human life as righteous action. Extending this further, we develop compassion for animals. Better still is adopting a vegetarian diet, though this is not mandatory for lay Buddhists. For lay people who cannot practice vegetarianism, it is better to choose meat from animals already killed, rather than slaughtering them ourselves or asking others to kill them, to minimize the killing karma as much as possible. We should practice charity and offerings, help those affected by natural disasters, and rescue the needy and the poor. We must also understand when to provide immediate aid and when to offer long-term solutions. Saving with a fishing rod refers to vocational training and creating jobs. Saving with fish refers to providing immediate, tangible assistance to help people overcome hardship. Immediate aid or saving with fish involves providing supplies, money, clothing, and specific aid packages to help people survive. Long-term solutions, or saving with a fishing rod, involve addressing poverty by creating sustainable livelihood. For example, if we care for the poor in India, we might establish schools to educate them, ensuring that children from poor families receive a proper education and do not fall into poverty. In the Buddhist pilgrimage sites in India, Vietnam has established 3 schools for orphans and poor children. The most significant is the Linh Son Orphanage in Kusinagar, run by Nun Tri Thuan, which educates 420 poor children. Whenever we visit, our delegation supports all 420 children, contributing to breaking the cycle of poverty for these children and their families. The second school is Linh Son Pagoda, run by Venerable Linh Quang in Lumbini. He established the school a few years ago, and it now educates hundreds of Nepalese children, the hope of alleviating poverty in the border regions. The third is the Vietnam Buddhist Temple of Venerable Huyen Dio. Occasionally, they offer scholarships to students. These 3 initiatives are highly significant. In India, the poor, especially the unemployed, must work at least 100 days a year to receive a minimum wage. However, due to corruption, 80% of the wages are embezzled by administrators, leaving the poor with only 20%. Corruption in India is a severe problem of the century. Alleviating poverty in India is no easy task, but it is better to do something than nothing. Non-stealing stealing occurs on various levels. First, there is the outright theft of someone else's property. Second, there's picking up someone else's belongings that have been dropped and not returning them. Third, there is the failure to pay taxes in accordance with the law of the country where one resides, which is considered a violation of this precept. Fourth, there is bribery, kickbacks, and collusion. Fifth, there is using pressure to force others to pay for something they are not satisfied with. All 5 actions fall under the karma of stealing. In this context, usury also has an indirect impact. Those who cannot repay their loans often cannot borrow from banks. Taking advantage of this situation, some charge exorbitant interest rates. Most borrowers in such circumstances cannot repay their loans. Even if they can, the karma of the lender is severe. In the scriptures, the Buddha often used the phrase, "What is not given should not be taken." Whether it's a needle, a blade of grass, or anything else without value, one must ask for it. This refers to material possession. The second type of possession is intellectual property, which includes inventions, innovations, copyrights, and various other forms of intellectual property. In the modern era, this aspect is highly developed. Many of the world's billionaires owe their wealth to patents and invention, global markets for their product. When someone discovers a formula, they can become a billionaire. Many Indian billionaires have amassed wealth by developing software for computers and selling it at international prices. A piece of software that costs $100 to produce can generate millions of dollars in revenue annually. Unimaginable profit. Respect for intellectual property has become an essential part of the 20th century and will continue to be so in the centuries to come. When executing contracts, it is crucial to respect intellectual property rights. The Buddhism Today book series, which we have been publishing for over 10 years, has released more than 200 titles on Buddhist research and application. We insist that our staff handle intellectual property rights seriously. Whenever a book is reprinted, regardless of how many thousands of copies, royalties must be paid to the author or translator according to the contract, even if they are unaware. During the third, fourth, or fifth reprint, if we don't inform them, they would never know. We require that they be paid royalty. The authors and translators are very happy when they receive royalties for reprint. First, they feel that the readers appreciate and respect their work, leading to more purchases and quicker sales. This encourages them to write and translate more, contributing even more to Buddhism. The life of India's poor. In our October 2009 pilgrimage to India, we had 80 participants, 40 from Vietnam and 40 from countries such as France, the United States, Germany, Canada, and Switzerland. All were surprised to see that the Buddhist pilgrimage sites, once wealthy, are now impoverished, yet there is no theft. The poor beg, but they do not rob foreign visitors or passers-by. They embody the Vietnamese saying, poor but clean, torn but fragrant, which is very impressive and worthy of praise. Life in India is extremely difficult. Some people work as domestic helpers for wealthy families, cleaning, washing, cooking, and caring for children, earning about 500,000 VN per month. If they don't do it, someone else will. Unemployment is rampant, so labor is cheap. A rickshaw ride for 2 people over 3 kilometers costs only 10 rupees, about 4,000 VND. Cost of living in India is also low. A poor family can survive on 30 rupees a day for a family of 4. 1 kilogram of wheat flour costs about 10 rupees, 1 kilogram of potatoes costs about 15 rupees, and 1 liter of milk costs about 23 rupees. A family of 4 can survive on half a kilogram of wheat flour, half a kilogram of potatoes, and 1 liter of milk per day, costing about 30 rupees or 12,000 VND. Their lives are impoverished and difficult. They may push and shove out of fear of missing out. They do not rob. If you leave your belongings in a hotel without locking them, they are rarely stolen. Occasionally someone may be tempted, as is the case anywhere, but overall, theft is rare. Wherever you go, they ask for tips because they are poor. A tip of 10 or 20 rupees is greatly appreciated. Giving and sharing. In righteous action, non-stealing means respecting the property of individuals, groups, or nations. The second aspect is giving and sharing. Respecting is just the initial step in righteous action. Giving and sharing is the second aspect. The second aspect helps us become saints. In our pilgrimage group, not everyone is wealthy, but everyone has a generous heart. After a charitable trip, everyone is left with no money. Everywhere we go, we see poverty. We often compare charitable actions to drops of water in a desert. They evaporate without soaking in. We must strive to share with those in need. From a karmic perspective, sharing others' suffering is doing good for ourselves. Helping others is helping ourselves. Understanding this, we should not regret giving away our possessions, as giving ensures that they remain with us. Merit will act as a guardian, a dharma protector, helping us overcome hardships. Reflect on your life. Many crises occur. Some people never recover, while others remain healthy. Some people face financial crises and nearly lose everything, while others remain prosperous. Next to Jiakno Pagoda, there's a Chinese family. Before 1975, they owned 6 houses in District 5 and a large ice cream factory on Nguyen Tri Phuong Street, next to Tran Khai Nguyen School. After 1975, fearing the loss of their business due to nationalization, they fled the country, abandoning their houses and assets. Now, their family members are scattered across Australia, Germany, and the United States. When they left, they only took gold with them. After paying for their escape, they had nothing left and had to start over from scratch. Each of them now owns 5 or 10 houses. The second eldest brother in this family, in addition to owning 5 houses, also owns a car garage and a beautiful island in Sacramento, California. This example shows that if we do good deeds and accumulate virtue, the loss of assets is only temporary. Over time, through selfless and altruistic actions, we will gain much more. Losing a few things will result in gaining much more. Those who plant the seeds of Buddhism must have this faith. Of course, the effects of merit manifest differently for each person. Some after a year or 2, others after 20 years, or in the next life. We should never become discouraged or disappointed when merit has not yet manifested. If it hasn't manifested, it means it's still intact, and we should be glad. Once it manifests, we enjoy it fully. Doing good deeds without immediate results means our merit remains like money in a bank account. If we don't withdraw the principal, both the principal and interest will continue to grow, never diminishing. Only short-sighted people invest in the short term, immediately using what they earn and thinking they are rich, but in reality, it will soon be gone. When we do good deeds and someone else takes credit, we don't lose anything. Though we don't see the immediate effects, karma will not be altered, and those who steal others' merits will face severe consequences. There is nothing to fear about losing our merits, especially when doing good deeds. The greatest difficulty in Buddhist families today is when one person practices while another does not. For example, a wife likes to do charity, but her husband is not supportive. The husband likes to do charity, but the wife disagrees, leading to a conflict. Some people even hide their charitable actions. Many wives have to hide their charity work from their husband. They don't even dare to accept certificates of merit for fear that their husbands will find out about their charitable activities. If they make a profit of 2 million VND from selling goods, they report a profit of 1.8 million VND to their husbands and use the remaining 200,000 VND for charity, living in secrecy. Husbands should support their wives in doing good deeds rather than forcing them to hide it. This is a good deed, especially when it helps society, and there is nothing to lose as long as it doesn't harm our daily lives. The Buddha provided an excellent spending guideline for us to consider. 25% for daily expenses, 25% for filial piety toward parents, 25% for savings, and 25% for charity. To do good deeds, we should avoid borrowing money to do charity. If we have no interest income, it is not advisable to do charity. Some people are deeply in debt, but when they hear about a charity drive, they immediately participate, even though they haven't paid off their debts. This is not practical. Moreover, when their family members find out, they may lose faith in Buddhism. Sympathetic joy. For those without money, do not force yourself to do charity. You can still contribute in other ways. The Buddha taught us to practice sympathetic joy. Sympathetic joy is a way of doing charity. Many people without money know how to mobilize others to contribute to charity through their reputation and integrity. Although they don't spend any money, they still accumulate merit by contributing to the charity effort. Those who connect people in this way gain even more merit. If we have money and know how to mobilize others to do good deeds, our merit is multiplied many times over. Western society is highly individualistic. Living in such a culture, one tends to become selfish. Even when eating together, each person pays for their meal. Vietnamese and other Asians who have moved abroad still retain some of their cultural traditions, so they are not as individualistic. However, too much fairness can diminish compassion, while being too generous can lead to bankruptcy. We must manage our finances properly so that charitable activities do not adversely affect our family's finances, ensuring that other family members do not feel burdened by our charitable effort. We must carefully balance our charitable actions. Helping others and saving lives can also be done through spiritual means, such as distributing good books, CDs, or scriptures. The cost of printing and distributing CDs is not high. Each disc costs about 5,000 VND if self-produced. By selecting excellent Dharma talks and targeting appropriate audiences, we can bring great benefit to the public. Some people become strong supporters of Buddhism after listening to a single CD or DVD. We recommend that donors focus on distributing CDs to non-Buddhists, rather than just temples. One of the most important places to do this is at markets, where people from all walks of life gather. By choosing suitable topics for newcomers to Buddhism, we can help many people learn about Buddhism and become Buddhists in the future. This is not very costly. Another good place is at schools, outside university, college, and high school gates. We should choose topics related to youth, ethics, and intellectualism, rather than those on Pure Land, Zen, or Tantric Buddhism, as these may not be appropriate for beginners. By introducing Buddhism from a philosophical perspective, we can ensure that Buddhism will develop rapidly. While printed books are more expensive, costing 10,000 to 30,000 VND, CDs are only about 3,000 VN each and have the potential to transform people significantly. Avoiding sexual misconduct. This is a specialized term often translated as abstaining from adultery. However, this translation does not fully convey its meaning. Abstaining from adultery implies refraining from extramarital sexual relations, but it does not address other important factors emphasized by the Buddha. Many people do not engage in extramarital affairs, but they indulge in self-satisfaction, which is also considered sexual misconduct in the context of sensual desires. This includes premarital sexual relations based on mutual attraction in appearance, charm, beauty, or social status. Even though the couple is not yet married, this is still considered sexual misconduct within the realm of sensual desires. Today, Western society promotes sexual freedom. When two people date, they often engage in sexual relations without considering the consequences, leading to situations where early intimacy can cause a loss of respect within a marriage. Women should be cautious in this regard. Some women believe that giving their virginity to someone they love proves their true affection, especially in cases where they may have to part ways. Women often offer their virginity in such situations, or they may feel pressured by men who claim that withholding sex means they don't truly love them. These are unwise decisions and are considered sexual misconduct within sensual desires. Western society views sexuality as the highest form of entertainment. Poverty porn and cultural degradation from the West have had a broad impact on Asian societies and cultures. Engaging in sexual relations before marriage is already considered sexual misconduct, not only after marriage. This is true in terms of legal and ethical principles within Buddhism, as it reduces our moral value. Sexual misconduct affects our health, leading to life-threatening consequences, as many people cannot control their desires and may contract deadly diseases through sexual relations. Sexual misconduct also includes bestiality, under any circumstances. The scope of this precept is much broader than merely extramarital sexual relations. Some people remain single throughout their lives. Some men choose not to marry because they fear losing 50% of their assets in a divorce, so they move from one woman to another, engaging in multiple relationships. Although this may not violate legal principles, it is considered sexual misconduct from a Buddhist perspective. Cohabitation is becoming increasingly common among some Vietnamese youth, influenced by Western culture. They argue that living together for a few years allows them to determine compatibility before marriage. But this reasoning lacks truth. During cohabitation, couples do not demand responsibility from each other. But once they decide to marry, responsibilities toward the family, spouse, children, and in-laws come into play, creating pressures that differ from the carefree nature of cohabitation. This often leads to the breakdown of happiness. Furthermore, the loss of mystery diminishes attraction. Preserving one's chastity enhances sexual attraction for both men and women. Those who maintain their chastity are highly valued and respected. Marriage culture in India. Indian society is commendable for its strict approach to relationships. Even today, 95% of marriages in India are arranged, with only 5% being love marriages. 5% love marriages mainly occur within Christian, Protestant, and Muslim communities, while the majority of Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, and Sikhs follow arranged marriages. Every Sunday, English and Indian language newspapers feature 6 to 32 pages of arranged marriage advertisement. Divorce statistics in India are surprising to the world. Unsuccessful marriages are mostly love marriages, while arranged marriages have a much lower divorce rate. In the past, Hindu customs were harsh. When a husband died early, the wife was expected to be buried with him, a practice that has now been abolished. Widows rarely remarry, and if the family is financially unstable, the husband's family will provide support. At marriage, the bride's family pays a dowry, and the more dowry the wife brings, the more the husband cherishes her. This dowry allows the wife to be financially independent to some extent, and according to inheritance law, the wife and children are entitled to the husband's assets upon his death. Indian women are rarely seen on the streets after 7 p.m. This has become a cultural norm, passed down through generations. Indian men are less likely to engage in misconduct. There are no karaoke bars, hostess bars, or widespread liquor shops. They don't have the same level of entertainment venues. Rarely, a cinema might open, and upon visiting such places, one would find only men in the audience. Public parks and common areas do not display couples being affectionate. Such activities are considered private, and even holding hands between husbands and wives is rare. This is mainly seen among Muslims and Christians, while Hindus, Buddhists, and Jains have maintained this practice for thousands of years. Western culture has spread to India, but it has not eroded its core cultural values. Indians are considered reserved, which helps them preserve their traditions. Marriages to foreigners are rare, regardless of wealth. Indians prefer marrying within their own culture. Sexual misconduct among conscientious Indians is minimal. They know how to control themselves, even if they love someone. Acceptance of arranged marriages ensures they preserve their most precious virtue. Western culture, however, does not value this, and whether someone has had 10 or 20 partners is less important than whether they are happy with their current partner. The United States has a divorce rate of 51%, meaning 1 in 2 marriages ends in divorce within 3 to 5 years. The number of unmarried couples and single people is rising, allowing them to freely choose partners and leave when they are no longer satisfied. The rate of separation among non-married couples is over 90%. Sexual freedom does not lead to family happiness. In this aspect, Western countries could learn from Asian countries. Sri Lanka, a predominantly Buddhist country, has one of the lowest divorce rates because most people follow the third precept of avoiding sexual misconduct, which is part of right action in the Eightfold Path. Even if one is dissatisfied with a partner or an arranged marriage, they still accept it for the sake of their children without the need for separation or divorce. Too much freedom can sometimes lead to greater difficulty. The price of freedom can be suffering, not happiness. In free societies, while many things are more accessible, happiness is often built on individualism and personal interests, leading to a decline in compassion, care, and help for others. For the saints, avoiding sexual misconduct is about transforming sexual energy. This is a significant challenge for humans and animals alike. Sexual energy is a force that draws beings into the cycle of birth and death, like a magnet, next opposite. The Buddha's spiritual path, outlined in the Eightfold Path, teaches us how to transform this energy, not suppress or repress it. Methods for avoiding sexual misconduct. The Buddha provided various methods for monastics to transform sexual energy. For example, considering older people as parents, younger ones as siblings, and even younger ones as children helps prevent incestuous thought. This attitude of seeing others as relatives helps curb the desire for physical pleasure. Meditation on the repulsiveness of the body is another technique to overcome lustful desires. Visualizing a corpse going through 9 stages of decay, swelling, rotting, disintegrating, turning into ashes, being devoured by animals, etc., reminds us that the body will eventually return to earth, water, wind, and fire. This helps us see that life should not be idolized as a deity, needing constant gratification. Meditation on the purity of the mind helps us be content with what we have. Contentment leads to maintaining moral purity. Men who are discontent are more prone to infidelity. For example, a man may compare the warmth and respect he receives from a subordinate or a stranger who greets him with a smile and offers assistance to the treatment he receives from his wife who, despite helping him, may not be as warm or affectionate. Such comparisons can weaken a man's resolve to remain faithful. Women may also compare their husbands to other men, leading to infidelity in thought and eventually in action, breaking up their family's happiness. Buddhism is the only religion that, until now, has shown the harmful effects of sexual misconduct and teaches us how to transform it to become saints. Over the course of Buddhism's development, some schools have allowed monastics to marry. In Tibetan Buddhism, 3/4 of the monks marry, while the nuns remain celibate. In Japan, over 50% of monks marry. In Vietnam, some schools also allow monastics to marry. Although the laity accepts these married monastics as spiritual leaders, and they have made significant contributions to society, it should be understood that they can only become high monks, not saintly monks. They may contribute greatly to Buddhism and society, becoming noble and virtuous, but to attain liberation from the cycle of birth and death, one must fully transform sexual energy. Therefore, for many years, I have never encouraged lay people to practice for liberation, nor have I urged them to share the same spiritual path as monastics in order to attain liberation, as they still have marital lives. A marital life cannot lead to liberation. This is the essence of the Buddha's teachings as proclaimed in the Agamas, Nikayas, and Mahayana scriptures. Some teachers and lecturers, using expedient means, have claimed that chanting the Buddha's name once can eliminate countless sins, or bowing once increases merit by a millionfold, or that one can be reborn in the Pure Land while carrying karma. These are just expedient teachings and will never come true. Even monastics, after many lifetimes or many years in this life, may still struggle to transform sexual energy. Some may falter later in life or abandon their practice halfway. This phenomenon, described by Vietnamese Zen masters as the fall of ripe fruits, occurs frequently. It is a natural process of elimination. The Buddha's spiritual path is challenging, but offers the genuine opportunity for human beings to become saints. Transforming sexual energy. In the Digha Nikaya, the Buddha states that apart from the Shramanas of the Shakya lineage, there are no true Shramanas who can be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. This statement has shocked many, leading them to believe that the Buddha was elevating his own teachings while denigrating other religions. However, this is indeed the case, as only in Buddhism does the Buddha teach his Shramanas to fully transform sexual energy. Lay people are allowed to enjoy it, but within the bounds of non-sexual misconduct and sensual desires, maintaining a proper and righteous marital relationship. Monastics, on the other hand, must fully transform it, to the point where even in thought there is no trace of sexual desire, becoming truly liberated. Those who remain attached to sexual desire are still ordinary beings, no matter how virtuous they may be. For monastics, maintaining this precept is the most important aspect. Different Buddhist schools around the world still regard the reincarnated Tibetan lamas as saints, but this cannot be accepted within the framework of Buddhist teachings. For lay people, maintaining the precept of non-sexual misconduct in sensual desires helps them become fearless, righteous individuals. For monastics, fully transforming sexual energy into compassion allows them to universally spread the Dharma, helping and saving people without limitations or distinctions. This is the fundamental difference between lay people and monastic. In the context of the Eightfold Path, right action involves 3 actions related to the body. Practicing 50% of these actions makes one a righteous layperson, earning merit in the human and heavenly realms. Practicing 100% makes one a true saint. For lay people who wish to become saints, there are 3 possible paths. First, those who do not marry can fully develop their spiritual practice. Second, those whose spouses have passed away and do not remarry can achieve this. Third, couples who, after living together for many years, reach a point where they are no longer concerned with sensual pleasures and, although still living together, no longer engage in sexual activity, seeing each other as spiritual companions. Many lay Buddhists have achieved this. When both partners share this aspiration, it does not disrupt their marital life, and they can still become saints. However, if one partner practices while the other is not supportive, practicing partner should not go to extremes like nuns or monks, as this may create a void that the other partner seeks to fill elsewhere. Women who become devout Buddhists often grow indifferent to marital life. They should understand and empathize with their husbands, avoiding rigid practices that create a negative perception of Buddhism. Lay Buddhists should focus more on accumulating merit rather than rushing into liberation. In the scriptures, the Buddha praised exemplary lay followers like Anathapindika and Visakha. Becoming such individuals is truly valuable. Those who rush toward liberation without properly accumulating merit often face great suffering later on. Summary of right action. Lay people and monastics can practice right action in life, including non-harming, non-stealing, and avoiding sexual misconduct, as presented in the Buddha's teachings. By applying these principles, one can accumulate merit, contributing to a peaceful and happy life while supporting the aspiration to become a saint. Right action also helps lay Buddhists develop compassion and understanding while helping monastics maintain their moral integrity and purity. In summary, right action is a path to enlightenment, foundation for righteous and holy living.